Welcome back to the Smugglers Den. This is episode 19. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes. And as always, I want to thank swdestiny.com for hosting the Smugglers Den. They have all the new Spirit of Rebellion spoilers about 2 seconds after they're spoiled. All kinds of other great information. Check them out. Be sure to check out brokenegggames.com if you want to buy some cool gaming aids. Maybe you put TG Games at the end when you check out just to help out the Smugglers Den a little bit. And I'd like to thank the people who have been supporting me on Patreon, Tiny Grimes. We've got all kinds of cool stuff happening over there with the new cards coming out. We've been having lots of discussions. Check it out if you're interested. And, as always, I'd like to bring in my guest. As you can tell, our guest this week, by the birds in the background, is Jay from the Knights of Ren. What's happening, Jay?
What's up, Tiny?
Wait. This isn't Jay? John Bruno brought his own bird? What?
Oh, I always bring my little bird with me everywhere, but I wanted it to feel special, just like you were talking to somebody from the Knights of Ren.
All right. Well, April Fools, everybody. Hopefully that was a hilarious routine. It may not have been. It may have been ridiculous. But, John, how you doing? Have you played much Destiny this week?
I have. I played probably 4 of the last 8 days, I would say, I played Destiny.
Wow. You make me jealous, man. I remember when you first got in the game, it was kind of like, I don't know, Tiny, it's got dice and cards. It might be terrible. I was like, come on. I think you'll like it. And now you're like, I play every night for 7 hours a night.
Well, I'm jealous. You get to play on tabletop. I mean, you get to play with a whole bunch of people you don't know who they are.
Yeah, and there's not. I get people who draw obscene images on the board and all kinds of fun stuff. It's great,
Way more fun than playing in person with people.
Way better.
April Fools again.
Way better. All right, so did you play any tournaments in this last week, John?
I played 2 tournaments.
Oh, all right. Let's hear. How'd you do?
In one tournament, I went 3-0 with Vader and came in first in that tournament.
Nice.
And the second tournament, I went 4-0 with. Sorry, the first tournament was Django Double Trooper, and I did go 3-0 to win that tournament. And then this past week, I went 4-0 with Vader and won that tournament.
Nice. So sweeping all the events. I unfortunately was not able to hit either of those tournaments. I get about usually 1 night a week off to do this stuff, and we've been supporting our local league over at Paper Hero Games. So I've been doing that. So I haven't had any tournament prep, unfortunately. I did go 7-0 at League Night, so that was cool.
I was going to say, you did really well on League Night. I only played 3 games of League. I went 2-1. I had a friend who's just getting into the game, and I was helping him set up cards and get going his decks, and he's not in the league, so we played a game.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun.
Our good friend Greg, welcome to Star Wars Destiny, Greg. You'll never leave.
And I have another friend, Ram, who joined, a longtime Thrones player like myself. He played in the tournament with me on Saturday, and he actually came in second, went 2-1 with his first deck ever. He played Night Sister, Bala, and Double Trooper, which was really fun. He had a good build with it.
And how long has Ram been playing? What, 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is really important that Destiny really rewards skill, right? Even if you're good at other card games, you can kind of come into Destiny and be like, okay, I can get a feel for this. I have an idea how this works out.
Well, of course, because it still is a card game. I mean, you're going to have the RNG. The dice rolls are always going to be a part of the game. There's going to be games you win because you roll well and games you lose because you don't, but your opponent does. But,
yeah,
you can cover a lot of stuff still with gameplay and the choices you make. I mean, I've played you lots, and obviously, not just to say this because you're my friend, but you make the best choices I see out of people in terms of there's choices of when to activate your character, don't activate your character, hold cards back, bluff, and you do a great job of that. And that's what makes you a good player to get past a lot of the dice roll and RNG in the game.
Yep. And when we get to the spoiler section, we'll see which way we think this is going. More RNG, less RNG. That feels like a debate to be had. I will say this. I love League Night, by the way. You should try it at your store if you haven't tried this yet. There is a downside, though. A, I don't get to play in tournaments lately because I'm playing in the league. And then B, the games are much less good. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but what I mean is this. If you have cool prizes, like for who plays the most BB-8s, then people are playing decks with BB-8s, and if you're playing a deck with a BB-8, it's not as good of a deck, right? So I feel like the quality of the games has dropped a little bit, which makes me a little bit sad, but that's all right.
Well, and there was another one when another achievement we had was who gets the most ATSDs out, and I put 2 deck on purpose and got 2 of them out in the game just for the hell of it. When I normally would never spend 6 credits on something like that.
Yeah, and did you win that game?
I did not.
Yeah. If you spend 12 of your resources on ATSTs, they better do a lot for you to win that game.
Exactly. If you're going to spend money, I'd rather spend it on many other things. Like even the deck I had it in, which was my own Night Sister Bala Double Trooper deck, and I had a choice between an Endless Ranks or an ATST. Having a character, which is keep you alive longer, versus the ATST, which is a single die that does stuff. They can still screw with that die. I'd still rather spend a 5 in the Endless Ranks to get the Trooper back, but I put the ATST out.
Yep, for the achievement points. Makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I will also say this. I've played a lot on Tabletop Simulator this week, but almost all of them Spirit of Rebellion decks. I've barely ever played regular decks on Tabletop Simulator, which has been a lot of fun. And brings us to our spoiler talk. And John, I imagine you haven't been under a rock for the last week and saw that there have been a ton of spoilers?
There have.
Yes, there have. Yes, there have. So,
I can't wait for this weekend, and we're going to see every card, basically, because they're all end up showing up online.
Yeah, I do want to make a call out right now to the Australians of the world. What's the deal, man? You guys have had pre-release tournaments, and I haven't seen all the cards yet. What is wrong with you? Get on your game.
That's why we don't like the Aussies.
See, I'm not going to say that, but John just did.
Actually,
so when you send your hate mail, address it to John. Tiny did not say he hates the Aussies. He said they need to up their game.
No, address it to Jay from Knights of Ren.
Oh, yeah. Jay of Knights of Ren hates the Aussies.
If you like the things I say, I'm Jay. If you don't, or I could be Jason. Jason Flanzer.
Oh,
I could be JB Flans.
Send it to JB Flans. There you go.
Wait. Somebody's at my door. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Well done, sir. Well done. All right. Well, let's move on to spoilers that excite us. We cannot run down all of the spoilers that have happened. That would be a rather long show, and that would be all we did. So let's talk about some cards that excite us. And I'm going to go first here because there's one card that I am just over the moon about that just dropped, 2 hours ago or something. And that's C-3PO. And this is a 1-cost support droid with a die. Now, normally, I don't like this. It's slow. BB-8 is a great example of this. He's fine, but he's really slow. And C-3PO's die is very similar. It's a focus, a discard, 2 resources. That's great. It's nice having a nice slow deck that gets you resources. But guess what? That usually doesn't do that well. But his action ability is nuts. Remove this die to resolve one of your dice as if it were showing a different symbol. It keeps its original value. And so what this basically means, John, I feel like this card saves you from those god-awful rolls where you roll out 4 dice and then it's just, snake eyes, awesome. At least with 3PO, you can fix one of those dice and make it something legit. What do you think of this card, John?
Crazy. I love it. I think it's going to be awesome in whatever kind of deck you play, whether it's a control deck or an aggro deck. I mean, it's just this.
Yeah.
The great part, it's just like Immobilize, right? Who cares what you roll to die? You never actually use, seldom anyway, Immobilize for its die. You're using it as its action ability. You're doing the same thing with C-3PO. You can care less what you roll, and you're just to use it on any kind of die and keep that value on that die is amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be great in either of those decks. And it's red, and already we know we have cards currently in Awakenings that speed up decks in red. Mm-hmm. And this is just going to help it even more.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'm dead serious. If this die was 6 blanks, I would still play it.
Absolutely. I mean, you can see from the picture, it's got 2 blanks.
Yeah.
I mean, a focus, a discard, and 2 money sides. I doubt you'll ever use his die for any one of those. I mean, maybe the money is the only one I could see, because in itself isn't. I mean, it's funny that it has a focus side on it, because really, kind of almost is a focus side.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
So it's just kind of funny that it has that, and the fact is, it's a support. right? So it's not even an upgrade where you have them, out on the table attached to a character. It's a free slot that goes on the table, and there are very few cards that mess with supports.
Yeah, I will say this, because of 3PO and then also backup muscle with that, I will always be running Surgical Strike as a one of in all my red decks now that have any range damage.
Hero decks or villain decks?
Has to be a hero.
Exactly. So you can't really say all your red, but yeah, I know. No, it's true. Surgical Strike, that's the cool thing about when a new set comes out. How many of the cards from a first set become better because of cards in the second set?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I agree, and I agree with you too. Surgical Strike is kind of a must-play now.
Yeah, and it's really interesting what you said, that this could be good for control decks and for aggro decks, and I totally agree. To me, the best case scenario for this, as a control player, right, that's where I always default first. So I think about it this way. Force Throw is the most annoying card in the whole game because you get the battlefield because you need to get your Force Throw out first, and 4 turns in a row it comes up missing the special, right? And you re-roll it, and it still misses the special while they're just going 3 damage to your face, 3 damage to your face, and you're just fuming mad that you can't get this dang special. And C-3PO fixes that for you. You just roll out the Force Throw, you roll out the C-3PO, and then you resolve him whenever you want and make that Force Throw a special. Theoretically, no matter what you rolled, because it says retains the value, and while blanks are zeros, specials have a value of 0. So I'm pretty sure you'd be able to flip it to a special unless they errata that in some way.
100% agree with you on that. There's so many things that you can do with this die that it's an auto include in every red deck, every red hero deck. It's going to be. Again, the thing I like is that it changes your deck type by having it in there. It kind of covers your ass in lots of ways too for cards. So it's just nice to have this card in the game.
Yeah. The one place I think it's less good, and I love this, is that you can't use it that well for someone like Luke, where you just have one die that you want that 2 or that 3 side, and then when you miss it, the other sides are all 1. So it's like, okay, it's not really worth it to get 1 damage out of Luke. Like, that might help, but it doesn't take that crazy ceiling and flip it like that. I like that it works better on the more mid-range kind of stuff.
Oh, I like him. I like him great in. Imagine Qui-Gon, right? Qui-Gon has a couple 2 sides with a shield on it, right? So it gives you extra damage that way. You have in a blue deck like that, but other red decks, I mean, Leia's sides are really good. Akbar, he's it's going to be neat to pair this card with all. And the best part is that he's not a character. It doesn't cost you any character slots. And you get these other characters with him. That's so good. And it's nice, actually, we get to play with the droid. I mean, BB-8 people really don't play with, right? But C-3PO, yeah.
I used to play BB-8 as a 2-of in every deck back when we only had the starters and some dude opened like 3 packs and spoiled them. Hey, BB-8 was great then. And then as more cards got spoiled, I got sadder and sadder. Eventually it was just a 1-of of BB-8. And then it was, well, BB-8, my man, you're going in the binder, never to emerge again, sir.
Hey, isn't that a great rare card to open up when you open those packs?
Nothing feels better than opening that BB-8. I let my daughter play with my extra BB-8 dice today. She's 2 and had a blast. But yeah, it's so cool with this card that I feel like the possibilities are infinite. We could have a whole podcast that was just, hey man, what about this idea? What about this idea?
Exactly. I'm already thinking 20 different things to do with this card and decks I want to play it in, and current decks. I can just think about having some of my current decks I have.
Oh yeah,
how it would be, and then you're going to add in all the new characters and new upgrades and crazy other stuff we're going to be getting in the next set, and it's pretty exciting. I mean, this is the part that makes these kind of games so good. Right now, we're going to go from a set of 100 some cards, 170, whatever the number is, to doubling that in 2 months. And wow, it's just gonna really shoot the decks through the deck ideas through the moon. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. With 3PO, it feels like there's so many possibilities. Poe seems like he's gonna be great. Cunning. It's just amazing. Cunning is always online. This is crazy.
Yeah, Cunning. Yeah.
But I do want to say this. I am so happy that this card is a Red Hero card. I feel like Red Hero was the one faction that didn't have like that anchor centerpiece card. Red Villain does now with Imperial Inspection. Blue Villains always had it. Yellow has fast hands on either side of the board. I think Blue Hero is the other one that you're going, they need one more foundational piece and they'll be there.
I'm so excited just to have a card like this in Hero.
Yeah.
Because I still feel Hero overall is behind Villain in so many ways. I mean, if you were to take the top 5 decks right now in the game,
yeah,
how many of them are Hero decks? Maybe one.
Yeah.
You know, if you expanded to the top 10, maybe a second. You know, for the most part, it's just good to have a card like this to boost Heroes and make people play Heroes more.
Yep, I'm really excited about it. I want to talk about another card I'm excited about, and then you can go because it's closely related to this.
Okay.
And that is Planetary Uprising, which is another yellow hero card. And you know what I didn't even realize? Like, when you see a card this this good, you don't think about uniqueness sometimes. This card is not unique, and it says it's a support for 2 costs, which is a lot. But after you claim the battlefield, force an opponent to deal 2 damage to their characters distributed as they wish. That is a very strong effect, John.
Oh, I agree. And see, I mean, you said 2, which is a lot. To me, anything 2 or less is playable because you can put it out on your turn. I mean, you get the turn, you get your money, you spend it on that. How many games you play with, say, a Django deck? You get your 2, here comes out a jetpack, here comes out a holdout blaster, here comes any of these guns, the rifles we have that are 2, except for the baby pistol, which we love, which is 1. Yep. But in general, I mean, 2 on a turn is reasonable for a card. And you put this out, and it's usable every turn, especially when you got these kind of faster decks, which Red can have, and you finish your dice early, and you're going to claim the battlefield. It's a pretty great card. Pretty great card.
Yeah. Could you imagine this turn 1, this turn 2, you play a Poe deck, you roll Poe, you resolve the 2 on the one side, you do the throne room on like your second action, do a mind probe to their face for 4, there's 6, resolve 2 of these uprisings, there's 8, 10. Like 10 damage a turn, that seems pretty good.
I know. If you play it with the right battlefield, it can do crazy damage. Imagine a battlefield where you just do 1 damage to a character. And they have to pick it up. There's 3 damage they're taking right there just on the end of the phase.
Yeah. I feel like we're living in a whole new world with Spirit of Rebellion. I don't know exactly what the end result is going to be, but there are some very strong cards entering the card pool that are very interesting. One thing that I've been talking about, and I'm curious to hear what you think, is it feels like right now, generally the game is pretty fast, but all decks can kind of compete for the battlefield. Even against a fast deck, you can leave a blank in a resource and just say, I need the battlefield, I'll take it, or I don't want you to have it, it's fine. It feels like with how fast the decks are going to be in Spirit of Rebellion, with fast hands, that there's going to be a bigger dichotomy. There's going to be the quote, fast decks that are going to get the battlefield every time, and then the not fast decks that just don't have a shot at it unless they give up their whole turn.
Yeah, correct. It does make, when you choose to trigger that battlefield, to take that battlefield, it does make that a whole nother level of the game, a whole nother thought process of the game, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, John, what is a card that you're really excited about?
Oh, wow. I mean, to be honest, I love all these red cards, right? The red hero cards that came out today. Mm-hmm. But I'd probably say the one that excites me the most is Training.
I thought it'd be Snap Wexley.
You know, he's sexy. He's such an important character in the movie.
Yeah.
It's hard to not say him, but I'll go with Training.
Okay.
Training is a 2-cost upgrade. It's for non-unique red characters. It is neutral. Hello, Stormtrooper. Mm-hmm. Attached character becomes elite. You get a second die for that character.
Yeah.
Between like the Stormtroopers, obviously, and the Death Troopers, just on the villain side, Rebel Scouts on the hero side, right there, red, right? Yeah, those go Rebel Trooper, right?
Yeah, Rebel Trooper.
Those guys. I mean, this is a pretty strong card, I think, for only 2.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a card that says pay 2 for an extra die, that's great. I
Oh,
get
yeah.
to keep this die, you know? And it's a strong card. Again, it's another great card to turn in your cheap deck of all these non-uniques and make it even better. Again, I love what you can do with this card. I love having an extra Stormtrooper die. I love having an extra Death Trooper die. So it's going to be a lot of fun to play with, too.
It's a really interesting card because you can think about it the other way and say, well, at 2, at 1 it would be insane. But at 2, you're basically saying, F-11 blast rifle, no, I'll play this instead. Jetpack, no, I'll play this instead. Holdout blaster, no, I'll play this instead. Vibro knife, no, I'll play this instead. And so you're playing this, either you're looking at the weapon pool and saying there's not enough weapons yet, so I'm playing this, or you're specifically playing this instead of a weapon maybe on a turn, and that's where I get a little bogged down. The die has to be really good, I think, to be worth 2 resources instead of a weapon, especially, say, a redeploy weapon. That's my only negative point on this. At 2, is it a little too much or not? Are you fine with it at 2?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because compare it to another card, right? I'm spending 2 for Overkill. Overkill is another upgrade ability.
Yeah.
For 2, the exact same cost, exact same color. 4 of the sides are modifier sides.
Right.
A +1, a +2, a +3, a +3, but they're all modifiers. That's 4 extra damage sides. That's pretty great. It's kind of like a way better jetpack, because a jetpack has a +2 and a +3 in terms of the sides you care about for damage, which is also costing 2. So I think Overkill is obviously better than Jetpack. I know Jetpack has other sides and it does other things, but if you're strictly looking for aggro and doing damage, Overkill is better. But would I rather pay 2 for the Overkill, or would I rather pay 2 to have another character die? There are cards that trigger off a character dies.
Yep.
And to be able to have the character die, that is something. Also, say it's on a Stormtrooper. I have a chance for it, and it's going to sound silly, but another side that produces money. Or any character who has other sides that produce other things besides just damage that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of playing a weapon, yeah, you're doing that because you're boosting your damage. But if you're looking at the other sides of a card, you have a much better chance of rolling that out with a second copy of that die.
Yeah, for me, I think it really depends on the character. I don't think I'm putting this on a Rebel Trooper who has such low health and is a Guardian and is probably going to die. But if I flip it around and look at a Death Trooper who has 10 health and 4 damage sides, suddenly training looks really, really strong on that character.
Well, how about that new character for Heroes? There's a Rebel Commando. He's got 10 health.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another one of these red cards we have, another character. I mean, his sides aren't the best, but it does give you 2 dice for that character. I mean, Yeah, you're right. It depends on the character, but it's still pretty exciting to play with.
I think it also depends on the deck. Let's say you have 2 non-unique, or two uniques and 1 non-unique character in your build. I mean, would it just be better to have a weapon because then it's more flexible and it can go on either character rather than having to pigeonhole it on the one character? I don't know. I feel like training is the most exciting card until you think about it and then go, maybe it's not as exciting as I thought it was. I mean, it's definitely good, but maybe I'm overselling it in my own mind, and I'm not sure. I don't actually know the answer to that one. I love training. I have it in the deck, and it's so cool, but I'm just wondering if, as we hone our decks more with Spirit of Rebellion and make the most efficient things, how many decks is training going to make it into? I'm not actually sure.
But isn't that one of the great things about a new set coming out?
Yeah.
Is that you have no clue. Really, I mean, a lot of cards sound great on paper. I mean, everyone looks at, Force Speed is great. Maybe you play it as not as good. I doubt it. But in general, you have all these cards that sound good or bad initially until you play them. And that's the great thing about a new set coming out. You want to have those cards that make you want to play it. This is a card I want to play with. Maybe I'll find out it sucks. Maybe I'll find out it's great. I'll find out through playtesting. But that's exactly what I want in a new set, is to get me excited about playing new cards.
Yep. And I know we're talking about new cards spoiled, but what you said makes me want to talk real quick about Fast Hands. And Fast Hands is a card we talked about last time that basically says after you activate attached character, you may resolve one of its character upgrade dice. And I talked about how this card is probably the best card of Spirit and Rebellion. It goes in every single yellow deck. And you know what? I actually changed my mind on this a little tiny bit. And what I mean is this. It's still bonkers on a Luke or a Vader or anyone who has a big side. But the decks where it's not going to be quite as good in are decks where it's cumulative damage, right? It's a +1, a +2, a 2, a whole bunch of cheap weapons, suddenly putting fast hands on, say, a character that wants to have a couple weapons and that has plus sides, say a Balatik or something. It's not quite as good because you really don't want to roll Balatik out and then be like, yes, I hit the 1 damage on Bala. I'll immediately resolve that and now hope I don't get completely screwed by my plus side weapons.
That's true. I agree with you on that. And the other thing, too, is same with this card that gives you an extra die. I mean, this is one of your 3 upgrade slots.
Yeah.
Is this actually better than having something else in that upgrade position?
Sure. So, bottom line, though, is I just kind of wanted to rein back a little bit after more play testing. I'll talk about some of those archetypes I've been playing, but I tried it in other archetypes, and I still stand by my statement. In Luke, in Vader, this card is really good. Should cost 1. It's bonkers. But, I don't know. In another deck, not quite as overpoweringly strong.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that will be the best part is for people to play with, and they'll find out and make that assessment for themselves. I mean, a lot of times they're like, Tinygrams doesn't know crap. And they find out that's you. I know. But
What?
then they'll play with it and find out you're right. And that's cool, too. Other times they're going to disagree with you. So, again, that's the best thing about doing what you do, for all those Tinygram haters out there. You put the information out there for them. If they don't like it, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
But
gives a lot of ammunition for you.
You make people think, and that's what you want in a podcaster.
All right, let's talk about another card that's really, really splashy. I'm curious to hear what you think. That is the rocket launcher.
Okay, all right.
So the rocket launcher costs 3. It's an upgrade weapon, and its sides are 3 range for a money, 3 range for a money, 4 range for a money, and a special for a money that says either deal 2 damage each up to 2 different characters, which is phenomenal. It's basically a 4, or the crazy side, shoot a Millennium Falcon out of the sky. Any vehicle, but we'll assume it's a Falcon.
Sure, exactly.
And it's neutral, by the way, so it goes in all decks. What do you think, John?
Personally, I'm not a fan of the card.
What? I just fell out of my chair and cracked my head. I'll be okay.
Cost of 3, not excited. Doesn't excite me at all. And plus, you're paying 3 to put out, and you still need money to activate any of its sides.
Yeah.
So, while it's great, a lot of people are still not playing with a lot of vehicles. We may see a little bit more of that. The specials are awesome, right? They are. But to get rid of a vehicle, not happening a lot. To do 2 damage to 2 different characters, again, awesome. 1 out of 6 chance of doing that. I realize the other 3 sides are doing damage. I have a feeling once it hits the table, it could be good, but it's still going to limit what you do because you need to save your money for it. So I like it, and I don't.
I got to say, though, if I have the option between, say, playing another upgrade on a character and doing 4 damage for a resource, I'm okay with paying 1 for 4 damage. That's all right by me, John.
I hear you. And I look, if I had a villain deck, I know it's a neutral going hero or a villain, but if I had a villain deck, it's going to sound crazy, but I'd much rather pay 3 for a TIE fighter.
Interesting.
I like the removal of the shields. I like, it does damage, not as much as 3, 3, 4, but if I was going to pay 3, I'd rather spend that. Not, you know what? I even kind of like the other rifle, that 3-cost rifle that's out there. So
yeah, the IQA. I say you play your TIE fighter, and I will shoot it out of the sky.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm pretty darn impressed by this card. 3 now. So in the last set, in Awakenings, 3 was the boogeyman for me. I rarely played a 3-cost upgrade. It would have to be the best upgrade in the game. So stuff like IQA rifle, which is very strong, cost 3, no dice. But I gotta say, John, I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but Imperial Inspection is going to be a huge card in the metagame, and that only hits cost 2 or under. So I think what we're going to see a lot more of is playing early 2-cost upgrades and very quickly overwriting them with 3-cost upgrades so they don't get bounced.
That's true. And again, the fact that it is an upgrade and you're not really going to spend 3 straight out just paying 3, it does improve it a lot. But I don't know. It's one I'm going to have to really play with and probably see it wreck me a lot before I say, you know what? All right, I'm going to join the party.
Yeah. I hope that everyone thinks that because it's a legendary, and I would like the cost to stay low at the beginning so I can buy it. Then it can go up, and that's fine.
I'm always interested to see in the cards they pick to be legendary. You know, because we first set, Commanding Presence is a legendary, and I haven't seen it used a whole bunch. I mean, I do think it's great, and some really, in the right deck it is. I think it's a card that probably better with the second set.
Yep.
But it's neat to see, that you don't have to have, like, if I didn't ever get this card, I'd be able to live with fine, I think. So it's nice that some of those legendaries are ones you don't necessarily need. I don't want all my legendaries to be like that. I want some to be really good too.
Yeah.
But I don't want every single legendary to be, oh, you must have.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. Speaking of must-have legendaries, let's look at Baze Malbus.
Baze.
How is this guy legendary, John? He is less health than Poe and worse than Poe in every way and has the same cost as Poe. I can't see anyone ever playing Baze. Am I wrong? Please tell me I'm wrong, because this dude is legendary. And when I crack him on Saturday, I'm going to be really mad.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I look at Baze and I'm like, I mean, he doesn't quite do it for me. I mean, I'd much rather have Poe instead of Baze. Exactly what you said. Yeah. I feel like Poe's, well, obviously one more health is already better.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, unless there's something else, I mean, maybe I just want an all. I don't know. I'm going for the all Asian deck, so I'm going to play Baze and Chirrut.
Oh, okay. I mean, you don't even have to use race. You could just say the buddy deck, right?
There you go. Sure. Buddy deck. I'm going, well, I mean, whatever you want to say. The 2 guys that showed up randomly at some planet. Yeah, let's pick those guys. It's like they joined the team because we didn't know who they were, but now they're a part of the team. Okay, great.
We trust them fully.
They were in jail with us deck. All right, let's go with that deck.
Let's talk about his sides real quick since this is a podcast. So he's got 2 ranged, 3 range for the resource, which is the same as Poe. He has a +2 damage side, John, so he's better than Poe. A resource, and then a special. The problem is the special is garbage and says deal 1 damage to each of your opponent's characters. And it's even more restricted than that. It's just an opponent's in case you're playing, the multiplayer game. So what? That's maybe 2 damage, maybe 1 damage, depending on how late game it is. That's a pretty bad special compared to Poe's.
I was gonna say I'm like Poe's special a lot more. When I can roll the first turn, Mind Probe compared to this special.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll take Poe.
Yeah.
And Poe also, like you said, Poe's a legendary. So if I compare those 2 in value, I prefer Poe.
Yeah. I mean, this is such... I don't mind when people have different design spaces and then one seems better. I totally get that. But I feel like these guys occupy the same design space and Poe is just way, way, way better.
Well, another thing, too, is I do like that. We have characters in every set that are crossing all of the universe. You got characters in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah. You
got the second 3 episodes, whether it's episodes 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, and then you have the Rogue One and episode 7. So I mean, he's a cool. He was. I mean, honestly, he was a cool character in the movie, and it's nice. It's good to have him out there. I'm sure there are people that love him and Chirrut that thought they were 2 the best characters in the movie, and great. So you have him out there, and you want to have at least it's better than having another like Balatik or these other guys we have. That are. Who are these guys? Yeah. Oh man, Snap Wexley was my favorite character in that movie. Loved him.
But why do you make the 2 buddies both awful? Why couldn't at least Chirrut or Baze be good? They're like, all right. We hated these guys in the movie, so we're gonna make them both bad.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. All right, John. What other spoiler are you excited about?
All right, cool. I'm glad you asked me. So the one I like that I'm actually, well, again, we'll see. I think it's gonna be a really good card. It'll be interesting to see how it's played. Is Friendly Fire. I mean, it's kind of like a red deflect. right? So, spot a red. It's 2-cost event. Spot a red character and remove an opponent's die, showing range damage to deal that damage to a character. A little bit better than deflect because you do the full damage. It's like a reversal. It's kind of mid-range in between. Reversal, you get 3. Deflect is 1. This is reds right in the middle. You have blue, you have yellow, now you have a red one.
Yep.
It's cost-wise right in the middle. So I kind of like it. I got to say, I do like this in this deck. It's going to be interesting, though, because of the speed of the game and how many times you'll see a ranged damage just sitting there on the table for you. Yeah. But I kind of like it.
Yeah, I'm unclear on it.
Right.
Wait, it also says spot a red character and remove an opponent's die showing a range and to deal that damage to... Okay, so you do get to choose the character.
Right.
Yeah, if it was 1, it'd be amazing, right? But Deflect, it's limited, but what makes Deflect so good, in my opinion, was that you use half of your turn for Deflect, the other half of your turn for another removal, or to pay for a die, or to save for that lightsaber, or something. Whenever I see 2, I think of, oh, dang, this is going to be a removal spell. Something like Mind Trick, get rid of half your dice. Block, oh, your melee's gone. And this is like, okay, remove a die. I don't know. It feels overcosted to me. But if red doesn't have a lot of other removal, well, red has like no removal, so this will be great. And if it was in blue, I'm not sure we'd play it.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, why would you not? Why would you play it over Deflect at 2 cost?
Yeah, exactly.
But again, like you said, red doesn't have tons of removal.
Sure.
You have the 1-cost blue in Deflect. You have a 3-cost yellow in Reversal, and this one just fits right in between it too. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think it's balanced at its cost, and it's really going to be one of those cards within gameplay. You'll see how effective or useful it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wait, one more thing about the card.
Yeah.
It's got my favorite character on it. If you got battle droids, oh my God, please. I want a whole bunch of these. I love that. Roger. Come on. I want a whole bunch of these.
Oh, okay. How come that's not your ringtone? Should be.
It should be.
I'll buy it for you. You're welcome.
I don't know why we don't have a battle droid card yet. I just want him, make him 3 costs or something like that.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Next card I want to talk about that I think is really exciting is the Vibro Knife. Vibro Knife is 2 cost. The sides aren't that amazing. It's 1 melee plus 2 melee, a discard, a resource. So, it does what it does okay. It does help balance out somebody like Rey, who has those kind of troubling sides. But what makes it great is twofold. It has Ambush. We'll come back to that. Then it also has this ability, while this die is in your pool, melee damage dealt by your dice is unblockable, which can be really scary. Let's say you're Dooku, and you're like, yeah, okay, I got 2 shields already. I'm going to be able to discard. All he's doing, he's Qui-Gon. He's going to put out a 1, a 2, a 1. I don't care. And then you roll the Vibro Knife, and they're like, oh, God, that's like 6 unblockable damage. I'm Dooku. I'm dead in 2 turns. This is terrifying.
Vibro Knife is nuts. And the card I love it on the most, obviously, is Rey. How many times you play the Holdout Blaster on her? I mean, especially when you pair her off with Han Solo. But to be able to have her in the Qui-Gon deck with her, and you actually have a card that's got melee sides, it's a great card for Rey. It's like I love this card. It's a great card.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about it. I love that it has Ambush, so then it can do really silly things with Rey. It helps all those crazy Rey decks, Rey Poe, Rey Qui-Gon. Anything that wants to cheat just got to cheat even better with this Ambush card.
Exactly. And to finally have a good 2-cost melee weapon. I mean, we really didn't have another card that was that good like that.
Yeah, I have been looking at more and more, though. I was thinking about putting it with Vader. I'm looking at him like 1, and plus 2. I'm not sure this actually is what I thought it was, which is just a universally good 2-cost melee weapon. I think it's actually worse than Rey's Staff if you're not using the ability somehow. And for Darkseid, they don't even have a 2-cost melee outside of the Gaffy Stick, which I don't even count, and I'm still not sure it's all that playable. Am I crazy, John?
Probably.
Okay.
I do think it actually, I mean, It's going to be good with Dooku. It's going to be good with Kylo, just to give them some addition. They don't do as much damage, obviously, as Vader, to give them a little boost. I do like the ambush side of it. I love the fact that it's neutral. But I think I probably would play it with Vader in the Vader Raider deck, and because I do like it better than Gaffy Stick or Flamethrower. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a shot, and I have a feeling I'm going to like it.
Now that I think about it more with what I said with Imperial Inspection, maybe this is just a good, I play a Vibro Knife early, and then I jump that into a Dooku Saber instead of having to save up that 3, which can be very difficult. So it may just function really well for that.
Absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree with that. And I could actually see that with Rey also. Same reason. You play it early, you get your cheats with her, and then you're building up to your 4th throw, your Mind Probe. We're going to put those on her.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's going to be really strong. We got time for one more card, John. Is there one more you're super excited about?
Super excited about.
That seems like a no.
I mean, we've kind of talked about some of them and all the ones that we've seen already out there so far. I got to say, there's a character I'm happy we finally have a card for, and that's R2. It's kind of cool to have an R2-D2 card. I mean, I think that's probably everybody's favorite droid until K2S2 came out, right? K2SO came out over. So he's,
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like the fact there's an R2 card. That's better than BB-8.
He's better than BB-8, but to be honest, I'm still not sure he's playable.
Oh no, he's still not. He's not playable.
2
That's
costs
why I
is
said
too much.
He's not playable. I mean, again, he's a support. He sits out there, and you can do stuff with him, but I mean, there's so many better two cost supports I'd rather have.
Yeah.
Right, and it's just neat that we have an R2. Plus, it does damage, so that's something different than the other ones. Has no blanks. Yeah, exactly. Has no blanks.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
I think he should cost 1. I'm astounded that this thing costs 2.
Yeah, no, I agree. They could cost 1, especially when you see what C-3PO does.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's such a weird disconnect to me that 3PO costs 1, BB-8 costs 1, R2-D2 is basically the same as BB-8, and he costs 2. What? I don't get it.
You know, it's actually interesting from a design standpoint too, and I'm not talking about the abilities on the card. I'm talking about the art design on it. Is if you look at the card with the die, the card, because we don't have the full bleed on the card, cuts off R2 probably halfway through his frame.
Are you saying he's not wearing pants?
Exactly. Well, we don't know that until you see the die, and the die actually has full R2 on it.
Oh yeah,
so that's different.
Right. Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat when I saw that as a design on the picture, so it's kind of cool.
Sure.
By the way, can I say one more and throw one more out there real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think about the 4-cost emergency evacuation? 4-cost event. Hero event. Remove all dice.
Yeah, 4-cost, remove all dice, red hero. I mean, I think at first glance, it's freaking terrible. It costs 4. But I think it will see play in the right deck, right? If there is a deck that can build. But the problem is, it has to both build resources and be a pretty quick deck so that it can get done what it wants to do and then remove all the resources. I mean, remove all the dice. I don't know how you do both of those things, John.
Well, Poe Akbar, I don't know, Akbar something. I mean, I think those could do it. But 4 costs is just prohibitive, right? It's difficult to feel like you're going to get 4 costs and build up for that card. Now, where it actually would be crazy good was if it was yellow, so then you'd have with the Millennium Falcon. Now you got another way hyper loop.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that it's red, it's another one of those cards that intrigues me.
Yep.
At the same time as it makes me feel like I'll probably never use it.
You know what card it would be good with, and this is another card that got spoiled, is Premonitions. So this card is a 0-cost neutral event, which has a giant picture of Yoda on it. So I actually thought it was hero only, but it's not.
Right, you just set on the card to be able to use it to play?
Yeah, so basically this card says, put a card on Premonitions, put it off to the side, and then later you can play Premonitions to play that card you put on your other Premonitions for free. So like you said, you could put emergency evacuation on your Premonitions, and then at some point, as things go wrong, you could just be like, Boom! Emergency evac. We're out of here.
All right, now you got a deck. I'm building that deck now. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. See,
You're welcome.
there is something you can learn coming to this podcast.
So the problem is, it's so situational. You have to find premonitions and evac at the same time, because if you find them differently, the way this game works is, and this is something hopefully you guys have all picked up on by now, you cannot save situational cards forever. You need to be drawing into your good stuff. So if you see something like emergency evac turn 1, you cannot wait 3 turns to draw your premonitions. It just doesn't work very well.
Right, exactly.
You're going to have to discard it.
Now you see, you just shot my idea down.
I'm sorry, John. I'm so sorry. I want to talk real quick about any archetypes maybe we've been thinking of. I've come up with a few and streamed them. But before I talk about some, I'm curious if you thought of any. I know you've been only playing with Awakening, so maybe you haven't really thought about archetypes as much yet. Is there anything that's really jumping out at you that you say, ooh, that's something I really want to play with?
Well, the truth is pretty much the only decks I've ever built have been aggro decks. I mean, or at least ones that do damage. In some ways, Qui-Gon Ray really isn't. It can be, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of iffy. Poe Ray obviously is, although it's not, your conventional type. Let's just do damage build.
Sure.
But for the most part, the other decks I've all built have been, I'm just going to try to roll damage and kill you. And I really want to try more decks to see how control actually works. So a card that's coming out that really intrigues me a lot, that I really want to try in lots of decks, because on the surface it looks terrible, but I have a feeling it's going to be really good, is Unker Plut, or however you say his name. He is a card that really intrigues me. I just have a feeling there's going to be a lot of fun decks using him.
Yeah, I agree. The first time I saw him, I thought, this card is garbage. It's just garbage. But when you combo him with Imperial Inspection, which says if you roll a Disrupt side, you get to bounce and upgrade 2 or less to your opponent's hand. Unkar has 2 of them, and then he has his crazy ability, which says remove any number of your dice showing a combined value of 3 or more, then discard a random card and gain resources equal to that cost. He is an income engine that you get to run off of bad rolls.
Yep.
That's pretty good. I've actually tried it, John. I tried Unkar, FN, plus Death Trooper. It is 31 health. And you put like a whatever it's called, endless ranks in there for your Death Trooper if you need to. You bring him back. Now you're at 41 health. And what I did is I just played a pile of upgrades on FN. I would overwrite them, roll, resolve it, get it back, overwrite that one, do it again. Then I'd have a couple upgrades, roll FN now with the dice I've already resolved. And with Unkar, I was able to both control my opponent's upgrades with Imperial Inspection and get a pile of money to be able to fuel my FN engine that worked pretty darn well.
I agree. It's going to be that's just one possibility with him. That shows you right there. There's your first real build you did with him, and he's playable. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see the different decks that are used with him.
Yep. And what's really fun is he's so handsome. I feel like I'm looking in a mirror whenever I see him.
I totally see it. Him and Jabba, sexy beast deck. I
don't feel like I look like Jabba. No, I'm gonna pass.
No,
on that one.
I mean, I can be Jabba, you can be Unkar.
Oh, okay, all right. The most handsome guys at the bar, the Jabba Unkar buddies. I
love it. Love it.
Another archetype that I've been doing a lot of, and I think people saw this, is Vader Raider. I know you've never heard of this deck, John, but it's pretty good. It gets
Raider, Vader. Okay, all right.
Yeah. You couple those two guys. And then the way this archetype works is you don't even play weapons. You just put fast hands on Vader. On Vader. You put 2 of them on him. The deck's called the fastest hands in the galaxy, and Vader just slaughters everyone like they're younglings.
I love that.
Pretty strong.
My favorite scene in all the movies, the first 3 movies.
Boy, I wish you hadn't said that. I'm not sure I can invite you back anymore. That's kind of disturbing.
Only because I'm a teacher. Well, there is a disturbance in the Force.
Oh, man. So another deck that I've been thinking about is something like FN plus 2 Death Troopers. Again, You're looking at 31 health. You've got a lot of dice. You can play 2 copies of training to get up to 5, character dice, and then you just play piles of weapons, and you say, go ahead, kill me. I mean, good luck with that.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Anything else you've been thinking of?
He's the one guy that I really want to work the most with. I thought about 3 Death Troopers sounds kind of intriguing. See how fast you just roll out and win. Problem is you get no money, just getting your 2 money every turn. But that seems kind of interesting. And obviously a deck with Krennic sounds like a lot of fun too.
Here's a crazy one, and you're going to laugh about this, and I laughed when I first saw it. But Snap Wexley, his ability says, while at least one of his dice is in the pool, your opponent must spend a resource in order to claim the battlefield. And while that doesn't seem that great, it's kind of like, okay, I guess I just won't claim that turn. It's not going to be that big of a deal because you chose a terrible character to get this ability. You're screwed. When you throw in Planetary Uprising with that, so that you could both run a little bit slower deck, and because they don't want to pay one to grab the battlefield, and if they do, cool, they've lost a resources, which is ultra valuable in this game. I don't know, it's going to be interesting. Can he pair with Uprising? I don't know.
Well, I do think his ability actually is not that bad. He'll have a way to mess with your money is without having to roll a disrupt is kind of good, right? I mean, just let his die sit there for a while, and they want to waste their time, get rid of one of his dice when you have other dice that you could potentially use to do more tricks, damage, whatever. Yeah, it could be kind of a good decoy character to use too, but you still have to use him to win the game. But that's not bad. I don't hate his ability. I'll tell you a character whose ability I do kind of like, and I forget who it is, to be honest now. You're going to help me remember who it is. The character where they have to give up an extra card to be reroll cards.
Oh, yeah. She's not out yet, so we're not going to really talk about her because...
Oh, okay.
And this is the reason. I do want to bring this up. I think it's very interesting that FFG thinks that you can undo the internet. Like, a whole bunch of spoilers were released in Polish, and FFG basically said you can't talk about them. It's not really how the internet works, You can't just hit the undo button.
Right. I mean, I don't know the name. It could be some blue character. It could be, she might have a lightsaber. I don't know. But anyway, that character.
Ahsoka? Is it Ahsoka who's gone to the dark side? Is that what you're talking about?
I think it's Sabine. But
okay.
Yeah. So there is a character coming up, but I don't want to say more than that. But that seems kind of fun too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, those are the big archetypes I've been thinking about. Anything with Maz, of course. But I feel like Maz is not the archetype herself because she's so cheap. She basically makes any other archetype work, right? Whether that be Maz Rey, Maz, Luke, whatever we're going to come up with, she's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Maz seems like she's kind of bonkers too.
Yep. Well, let's move on to our last segment then today, which is Worlds Prep. So Worlds is nearly upon us, John. We have about a month, and I think for the next couple weeks we're going to talk about a deck or two that I expect to be everywhere at Worlds and how you handle them. So this week what I want to talk about is what I think might be the most common deck at Worlds, actually, and that is Vader Raider. So, John, let's start here. How do you classify a deck like Vader Raider?
Deadly.
Deadly, okay. I call it a low skill, high reward deck. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah. I can definitely see that. It is here. All right, here's my definition of what you just said, and we'll see if you agree with it. Why you classified it that way? There are decks in the game, in every single game, every single card game you play, where really you don't have to have tons of skill to win with. It's still skill will take you in terms of making the right decisions, when to reroll, when to not roll, activate a character, when to discard, when to all the different things you do. Skill, that is that. But there are decks that are out there that you can just roll dice, roll damage, and win the game. Django, in many of his iterations, is another one of those. But this deck obviously is true because not only do you get the character with great dice, like a Vader with a side 3, but you also get stupid cards, stupid easy cards that they can't do it. All right, somebody rolls a character. All right, Vader's got a blank. Okay, great. Oh, wait a minute. He just paid 1 and turned it into a 3, and now he does 3 damage, and I had nothing I could do about that?
Yep.
Yeah. That's why he is stupid good.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I mean, when I say low skill, high reward deck, I don't mean it doesn't take any skill to pilot, right? Every deck takes skill to pilot. What I mean is it is on the lower side. There's a lot more, I'm just going to roll him out and do damage or cheat damage out. And then you also have the holocron. So let's talk about what are some things you think about for beating him. And we'll take turns. I'll go first. The first thing I would say is you need to be very aware that they have Force Strike. Force Strike costs 1. It lets you turn any side to 3 damage. So a great example is this. Let's say your opponent has a 2 and a blank. They resolve their 2, taking your character to needing exactly 3 health left. He has 3 health remaining. You have an electroshock to remove that blank if you want, or you could do a couple damage. I think you need to be acutely aware of, yes, it feels like a waste. It feels like a waste to use an electroshock on a Vader blank, but if your character is within death range, and it would have a big impact on the game if it's an important character, or a character even that's unimportant that has its dice rolled out showing a bunch of damage, I think you need to remove that die. And you need to think about it this way. Vader Raider games are fast. They're not going late. So I feel like you can be a little more wasteful with the removal on the Vader dice if you need to really handle things early, even though it feels kind of, you don't really want to do it.
I totally agree with that assessment. I've done that actually this week playing against Vader Raider. I used a he does not like you just to get rid of that Vader blank because that my opponent had 1 money, and I was fairly sure that they were sitting there on Force Strike, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let you play it. If they have no dice in the dice pool, they can't mess with you. There are very few things they can do to mess with you. So just removing that die to get you to another turn is huge.
Yeah, and also part of that comes with reading opponents.
Yeah.
As you get better at this game, you can kind of get a feel for the rhythm and the flow of do they have that Force Strike or not? Are they keeping 1 card? Did they have 2 damage showing with Vader and they still kept this 1 card? Do they seem to be happy, right? Do they seem to be pretty relaxed and happy that they are showing that blank on Vader? They don't look too worried, and normally they do. Maybe they're one of those players that really wear their thoughts on their face, and you can see he's not worried at all. You know what? I think he's got a Force Strike.
Well, that's the difference between, and I wasn't trying to say that you can win this game without skill. I mean, it's true, you can. That does happen sometimes. But that's where the people who are flying a plane with autopilot and those who make decisions along the way, those are the decision plays.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you put this kind of deck in the hands of a player with skill and good decision making, really bumps it to that one of the best decks in the game.
Yeah. So what's a piece of advice you might have for dealing with this deck, with this monstrosity?
One of the things we always look at in decks, you and I talk about this a lot. Other players that we've in our group have talked about this a lot. Imagine you're going up against that deck. You're playing against it. Which character do you target first? That you have to make is, do I go target Vader? He's got 13 health. But at the same time, he's got 2 dice. But maybe I can kill the Raider because the Raider gets ignored sometimes, and the Raider does crazy damage because he's the one that ends up getting the holocrons and does sometimes crazy damage. And he's got a cheat that you can't control. So you have to make the decision for yourself in terms of who you're going to kill. Like I did play against Vader Raider twice this week, and 1 game I went for Raider. I took out the test Raider first. And I felt like it was a good choice. I rolled like at least 6 damage on the first turn, and I'm like, okay, I can spend that 6 and get halfway done with Vader, or I can just about kill the Raider. And I chose to kill the Raider, and then I did take him out the second turn, but I was still having trouble with Vader because he lasted a while. And he took out 2 of my 3 characters. It was a Django deck I was playing. I did still end up winning. It was close.
Interesting.
And I was like, afterwards, I was like, maybe I should put it on Vader. So the second time I played it, I took out Vader first, and I killed Vader on the second turn.
Yeah.
And I rolled good, and I never felt like I was in trouble the rest of that game.
So my suggestion is, if you're playing, kill Vader, take him out first.
Yeah,
So worth it.
I agree with that. I mean, I think this is true for every deck. You need to know the matchup going in. Who does my deck kill first, right? And sometimes it's flexible based on where they put upgrades, what kind of dice you roll. But I think with Vader Raider, it's like the one deck that's not flexible. You kill Vader first, period. So really funny, John. I was playing Mike the other night, and I was playing Vader Raider, and he was playing, and he rolled out about 4 damage on the first turn, and he went like this. He's like, I saw John go for the Raider first. I've never seen that. I think I'm going to try it. And I was like, Mike, don't try it. John is a madman if he went for the Raider first. You got to go for Vader. And he's like, no, I'm going to try it. And it was a bloodbath.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to get... Look, here's one thing, too, about the deck. You kill the Tusken Raider, they don't play Electroshock. Sure. You kill Vader, there's a lot more cards they don't play.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So a lot more of their cards become dead cards that way.
And remember, it can be easy to forget this. Let's say turn 2, your opponent puts a holocron on Raider, triggers it, and puts a force throw on him. And then the next turn, he pays 4 and puts a mind probe on his Tusken. And you might forget for a second because you're like, yeah, the Tusken gets force powers. Yep, I know that to be true. But you have to remember, you cannot pay to get them on. They have to be cheated on with a holocron. So just keep that in mind.
Correct. Yeah, that actually came up in one of my games, and it was we clarified it just exactly the way you explained it.
Yeah. So all right. So my next tip is, so of course you want to go for Vader first, but be careful of that Raider. More and more, this might be wrong actually, but I've gotten to the point where when someone rolls out a holocron, I try to read them. I try to really get a good read on how they've been playing this turn, how they've been playing the last 2 turns. Do they have a force power in hand? If I think they might not, I let that holocron go and hope that they don't have it. With the Raider, I'm becoming more and more convinced you cannot take that approach. A good Vader Raider will put their holocron on Raider first, and this is why. If you kill Vader and it takes, say, 3 or 4 turns, and then you have to deal with a Raider with 2 mind probes on him, there's a very good chance the game comes down to a roll where they have a 1/3 chance with their mind probe to just kill you because they get to discard and you can do nothing about it. So if you can prevent them from stacking those force powers on that Raider, it really, really helps. And more I've come to the conclusion that I just need to remove that holocron die if it hits. I just have to do it.
No, I agree with you on that. And another part of reading somebody is with the holocron. I'm just going to go with the holocron again. You know, the first roll, they roll the holocron, and they activate the Raider, they roll the holocron, and it's not the special. I mean, their very next action likely is to tell you whether or not they have an ability in their hand. Because usually people, again, people don't think. They're just like, oh, I got this force ability in my hand. I got to get it out. And they're going to try to re-roll the holocron the very next turn. If that happens, they probably got an ability. If they don't, I'm thinking they don't. And so it's just the way you're reading somebody. And it may be wrong, but I see that's probably, I would say that's true more often than it's not.
Yep, I think that's fair. And on the flip side, as the Vader Raider player, more and more now, if I hit the holocron and I have a power in hand, I just discard and put the power out right away. Even though I know I can't resolve that special if I roll it into the pool and get it, that's fine. Now it's there for the rest of the game. They cannot screw with it. The mind probe is on the Raider. Good luck. I'll hit it at some point.
And this is one of the things that makes this deck so good is both characters are deadly. Yeah. You know, because you have the Raider with his cheat, it gives you a chance to really, you know, knock a character out before they get a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, the worst is when you have, like you said, the mind probe, but I think force throw on him is amazing too, because they rolled first. They went first. They got their dice out. You have no other way to get rid of, remove any of their dice. If I get a force throw on my Raider and I roll them out, I got a chance to get rid of that die just because I can roll the force throw potentially.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think it makes the Raider really strong. And I think that's another piece of advice, and it's very general, is don't overlook the Raider. Don't think, okay, I'm going to go into this end game. He's got a full health Raider and I have a full health Ray. I have the advantage. You probably don't. That full health Raider, if he has a couple upgrades on him, is probably going to kill you really fast.
Yeah, and here's another great thing about this deck that I think people overlook. I know some people, I'm not going to mention any names, Tiny Grams, that when they play Vader Raider, they forget to trigger Vader. So pro tip,
yeah.
number one, trigger Vader.
Yeah.
Because, again, I mean, obviously, I think people people who don't play the deck don't realize how strong that is. If you are playing late game, say the Han Ray deck, and Han, you already killed Ray, Han's recycling his second chance. If you get a chance to go first and you can grab the battlefield and they've got that one card left in it, do it, grab it.
Yep.
Then you activate Vader and get rid of that card they have in their hand. Forget about their recycling.
Yep.
So there's lots of things you can do with Vader, and having one less card to be able to reroll, strong. I mean, I don't always activate Vader on the first turn. I mean, when I say first turn, I mean as my first action.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want them to play a couple other cards. So they're probably holding back event cards that are going to do stuff to my dice. And if I wait until they played other cards, and maybe especially after they re-rolled once, they probably threw away their worst card in their hand.
Yep.
So now I'm going to activate Vader and make them discard a card. They're going to have to get rid of a good card.
I think that's a really good piece of advice. We're going to take it more general, which is as soon as the turn starts, you need to be thinking, what's the card I'm discarding to Vader? You have to know that at the beginning of the turn and plan around it. You can't every turn go, oh, right. Oh, Vader discard. Oh, no. How am I going to do this? No, there needs to be a plan, right? Okay, I have 2 upgrades. I can afford to get rid of one of them, play the other one. I need to keep the removal. You have to know the card you're getting rid of.
That's exactly what I do when I play against it. Like, I look at my 5 cards at the beginning. First thing I say to myself, who am I playing? Is it an opponent who's going to remember Trigger Vader? Okay, so what card should I get rid of? Then once I decide, okay, I have a card I can get rid of, then I'm thinking with these 4 cards, do I want to play them or do I want to use them for rerolls? And I'm thinking all of this before I even activated my first character. Yeah. So I know how many rerolls I have. So I know what I want to get out this turn. And I'm already eliminating that one card. It's not like you look at this worst card and say, okay, I'm going to use this card to reroll. No, you have to think about 2 cards that you would want just for one reroll.
Yeah. And
so you think about that before you actually activate your character. And I think that's a great idea in terms of playing at your turn against Vader.
Yep. Another card you need to really worry about, and this is probably going to sound obvious, but it's No Mercy. You just need to worry about this all the time. If your opponent rolls out 2, they may be doing 6 to you. You just have to know that. And if you have a way to remove that 2, and 6 would be devastating, you just got to remove the 2. I know I've been tempted many times, and there was one game where I let it go, where I said, 2, I have some really good plays here. I can't really afford to spend the 1 for the removal. I can take 2, and I'm fine. It won't be a problem. And they just went, No Mercy, dropped the hand, 2 became 6. And I was like, you know what? I can't handle 6. I absolutely can't. 6 beats me.
Right.
And you just have to, every second of the game, you have to be thinking, what if they have No Mercy?
Look at this deck. We probably said already at least 5 or 6 plays that do 3 or more damage in a turn with this deck. That's why this deck is so brutal.
Yep.
You know, I personally love playing decks that have at least 4 starting dice. Well, you can't have 5, but it's 4 starting dice. I prefer that. Mm-hmm. I would love 3 characters and 4 dice. Those are my favorite decks to play. I just feel like it gives me more options to play.
Yep.
But you know what? This deck is still better. You only have 2 characters and you have 3 dice. And I do feel like this is probably, if I was going to Worlds, this would be the deck I would play.
For me, I don't think I would play it. Just because there's so much luck involved with this deck, it would just drive me insane. But I agree that I think it's a really good deck that is going to do very well at Worlds. And because it is, like we've been saying, easy to play at a slightly suboptimal level, I think this will be the deck that we see the most at Worlds.
Well, to say that you have to have luck in this deck, yes and no. I mean, you have to have luck. I mean, obviously in any deck you play, but you don't really need as much luck because you have all these other cards that allow you to, make up for bad rolls.
Yep.
I mean, you have a bad roll. Okay, 4 strike. Okay, great, took care of that.
Yep.
Plus the number of people, overlook this too. The number of yellow and blue removal cards, mitigation cards, is so good in this deck too.
Yeah.
Feel your anger, unpredictable, he doesn't like you, electroshock, it's isolation. I mean, there's so many good cards in here that also mess with your opponent's stuff too, and that's what makes it a really strong deck. And I mean, again, I said this we talked about this locally. Going into Worlds, I want to play a deck where it's at least more consistent. I mean, where I know you're saying there's luck, I still feel it's more consistent than a gimmick deck like Poe Ray or any kind of Hyperloop deck. Because once you get to your top 16 and you have to win a best 2 out of 3, gimmick decks, having them win 2 out of 3 games 4 times to say you're in a top 16, 4 times to get to the finals and win the championship, your odds are against you. You're much better off winning best 2 out of 3 4 rounds in a row with a deck that just does damage and goes out there and hammers your opponent.
Yep, I agree with that. And with something you said before, that is, know that your opponent has removal. Don't do crazy things like, all right, I've got a +2 on the table and another +2 and a 1, and I'm gonna turn this one to another +2 and then let them just pull your 1 off the table. There's so many ways to do dice manipulation and dice removal. Just don't walk into it. That was a bad example. It would be more like if you have a +2 and a +2 on the board. Don't go for the greedy plays. Do the damage when you can. Don't be super greedy, because they will disrupt your dice and it's going to wreck your day.
Definitely. I mean, there are ways that they can manipulate their dice and ways to manipulate your dice, and it's those. I mean, I love decks like this that I feel very few times I have a dead card in my hand.
Yeah, I agree with that one. And backup muscle. Always know backup muscle. Like, if they've got a card in their hand and you've got a guy who has, say 2 health left, and you could prevent the 1 damage that they're showing with their Raider, or just take it knowing you have 1 more health, you don't. You never have that 1 more health, because the second you get complacent and think, whew, I'm fine, I survived with 1, that's when they will play the backup muscle and kill your guy.
Right. Here's another suggestion. This is going to sound, maybe you might not want to do this, but let's say you're playing Han Ray. I have Han Ray and I'm playing against Vader Raider. It's not a dumb play? Ray has, in general, bad sides, because of her modifier sides. But if you roll that side that has the discard from hand, do it. Yeah. I would. Yep. I mean, because that's a random pull.
Yeah.
And you never know. You could be pulling that No Mercy, that Isolation, that Force Strike, that Holocron, that whatever, because they're really, really... I mean, nobody really is supposed to put bad cards in their decks. But there are cards that become bad along the way in your game, depending how the game plays out. Yep. I mean, seldom do I feel. If my Raider's dead, then I might have Electroshock as a bad card. Yep. But in general, there aren't very many bad cards in that deck. And just to pull one of those random cards out of their hand could be the difference in your turn, your game just extended because you made that pull.
I also feel like it goes the other way, in that there are a couple of cards that are just so critical to that deck. If you get lucky and pull both of their Force Strikes, a Vader Raider suddenly goes from what you were talking about of, I don't care what I roll, I'm still going to do damage, to, I better roll those 2s and 3s or I lose.
Sure. I mean, hey, you've got Isolation. I mean, you got, Force Strike, unless you resolve right away. What about use the Force? Yeah. I mean, that's good offensively or defensively. Again, there's another card in that deck that is crazy good. And another suggestion against the Vader Raider is, I know there's going to be times you're going to want to claim the battlefield so you can go first. Mm-hmm. But there are times you're going to have to bluff. Yeah. Like, you have something you can do. Yep. You got that 1 die sitting up there. Let them think that you have some kind of removal. Maybe they think you're playing, he doesn't like you if you have a villain deck, or whatever you could potentially have to make them mess with their die based on your die being there. Just don't jump in right away. I've got nothing to do. I'll claim the battlefield. I see too many people do that, and then they get raped after they do that.
Yeah, bad things do happen.
I played in the tournament I played on Saturday. That happened. I was playing Django with the 2 troopers, and my opponent claimed the battlefield. My opponent claimed the battlefield and had 3 characters.
Sure.
When he was done, he had 1.
Yep.
I haven't even really rolled out yet. He's like,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything to do. Okay, great.
Yeah. Man, when someone
Yeah.
claims early, you just and you have a lot of dice with all these weapons, just I'll reroll, I'll reroll, I'll reroll. I know you're not going to disrupt me in any way. I'm going to be the greediest person you've ever met in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's one last thing I wanted to say, but I think I must. Oh no, it was probe. So probe, I think, is really good against this deck.
I agree.
I think probe has varying values from deck to deck, but from all the events we talked about, and some of them are really high impact. Probe is really good against Vader Raider. So if you're running, a Django Trooper deck or something, and you're on the fence about probe and you're going to Worlds, put it in your deck. Put it in your deck. I'm telling you now, probe will be worth it.
Yeah, probe is like, I mean, from playing Django so many times, Django's Double Trooper, it's a money card. It really is. I mean, and again, don't play it first turn. Don't play it as your first play when they're sitting there with 5 cards. Let them play out a card or two. Just usually if it's an upgrade, if they're playing an upgrade, and now they're down to 4 cards, I might play probe.
Yeah.
But just increase the odds of them, having more upgrades or whatever in their hand, but increasing the chance that you have of getting events from them. And that probe has helped me beat Vader Raider in the past.
Yep. I think it was against you. I could have played a 4-strike and didn't, and had 3 cards in hand, and you played a probe, and I was like, oh no. And you missed it.
Yeah.
You missed the probe, and it would have won the game instantly. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was so crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, that wraps up our take on Vader Raider. I know a lot of people have talked about it in the past, but really, you're going to see it a lot. The bottom line is, you need a plan. Your plan cannot be this. Maybe the Vader will roll bad, eh? No, that is not a legit plan. Know how you're going to handle that deck. So, John, thanks so much for coming on the Smugglers Den this week. Can people find you other than on the Smugglers Den?
If they know where I live, they can stop by and visit me. Other than that, they'll find me on Wednesday nights at Paper Hero Games in Sherman Oaks with you and League.
There we go. Come on by. Hang out with us.
A couple other venues during the week, depending on what events are going on. That's
Sounds
about
good.
it.
And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on the Smugglers Den. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Tiny Grimes. You can find me on Twitter at Tiny Grimes Games. I've actually been streaming a little bit here and there, some of the new SOR stuff at Twitch TV, Tiny Grimes. So go to any of those portals, send me a message anywhere. Facebook, Tiny Grimes, I'll respond probably. Discord, Tiny Grimes, whatever. And again, thanks so much for coming by. Stop by the Patreon page. Check us out. Have some fun with us. And we'll see you next time on the Smugglers Den.